Warning: Armstrong Industries may contain adult and disturbing material. We strongly advise that it may not be suitable for young listeners. Thank you. At Armstrong Industries building, the team were going home. Lee decided to stay. Callie gets picked up by her boyfriend, Ricky. Oscar walks to the bus stop. He stuck his arm out to stop the bus. As the bus door opens, Oscar stepped on the bus and paid for the ticket. He sat on the seat. The driver steers the steering wheel and the bus moves on. At night, an 18-year-old man was going for a jog in a street in Blythe. It was all quiet, but then there was a sound of wind blow. Red smoke appeared in front of him. He stopped to look. The parchment was thrown in front of him, so he had a look. Then something cut his thumb, and the blood dripped on the paper. The red smoke flew right into him. His eyes turned grey like a stone. Meanwhile, Lee is standing outside the base, and the car arrives and pulls over. It was Lee's partner. Oscar is sitting at the floor in the living room next to his two friends, Jed and Ewan. They were playing Dungeons and Dragons. They were drinking beer and just having fun. Later on, Jed and Oscar were sleeping in a sitting room. Oscar was lying on a sofa with a blanket over him. Jed was sleeping on the mattress with a blanket over him. Ewan was sleeping on his bed in his room. Suddenly, the stone demon appears in Ewan's bedroom, who looks grey like a stone. So the stone demon puts his hand on Ewan's face. As Ewan opened his eyes, with his mouth covered, he can't scream loud enough for anyone to hear. There was black smoke in Ewan's eyes and killed him instantly. So the stone demon faded away. Next morning, Oscar and Jed woke up. Oscar put 2 breads in a toaster. After when the toast was ready, Oscar spread butter on both toast and gave one of them to Jed. So Jed asked Oscar if he should check on Ewan. Oscar agrees. He walks to Ewan's bedroom door and gave a knock. There was no answer. Oscar opened the door. He noticed Ewan's lifeless body, and his eyeballs were missing from his eye sockets and replaced with pile of black dust. So Oscar shouted, "Holy shit!" Meanwhile, Lee is sitting in his office, typing on his computer and drinking his Monster energy drink. His phone rang, so Lee picked up the phone and said, "Hello, tell me you're not fucking around, Oscar." "Right, I'm on my way." So Lee hangs up and puts his phone in his pocket. So he burst out of his office and shouted, "Nadia, Norville, we've got to go to Oscar's friends." So Nadia and Norville got themselves ready. After Lee, Nadia and Norville got into the black van. Lee drove the van to the house estate, parked outside of Ewan's front garden. Lee got out the van, entered the front garden, followed by Nadia and Norville. Oscar answered the door. Lee, Nadia and Norville got inside the house. Everyone enters Ewan's room. Lee sees Ewan's dusty eye sockets and said, "Oh, Jesus. Norville, can you take a look at it?" Norville puts his rubber gloves on and takes a closer look at Ewan's eye sockets. Jed asked, "Does he know what he's doing?" Lee replied, "He's a doctor. He knows what he's doing." As Norville finished looking at Ewan's eye sockets, he said, "I'm going to pick some dust up, and so I can analyse the substance." Jed said, "I don't know if you should do that." Lee said, "We need to know what's killing Ewan, so we can stop whoever it is by analysing the mess it's left." Norville puts a bit of black dust in the glass sample tube and closes the lid. He puts it in his pocket and he takes his rubber gloves off. After Lee, Oscar, Norville and Nadia walked out of Ewan's house. Callie has just arrived by running, so Lee asked, "Where were you?" Callie said, "Sorry, Ricky's at work and the bus was late." "What did you find out?" Lee said, "We're going to the base and find out where that dust has come from." After Lee and his team got into the black van and drove to Armstrong Industries building. They got out the van, entered the base. Soldiers are marching around. Norville entered his lab and placed the dust into the microscope. Lee and Oscar were having a conversation. Oscar said, "Me and Jed met Ewan last year at college. He seemed lonely. He felt ashamed when he admitted to me that he bullied this lad called Arthur Walton back in school." One of the soldiers entered and told Lee that PC Gary Tucker is outside. So Lee walked outside and met Gary. Lee asked, "What's up?" Gary told Lee that there's reports of an 18-year-old man called Arthur Walton being missing last night. Lee was horrified and thanked Gary for the news and told him that he'll look into it. Lee got back inside the hub with Oscar still sitting at a workstation and told him what he just got told. Oscar said, "So Ewan was possibly murdered or something. Either way, he died just so happens when Arthur goes missing. He can't be a murderer, surely." Lee said, "Have you got Arthur's address? Who does he live with?" Oscar said, "He lived with his mum." He gave Lee the note to his address. So Lee and Oscar got back into the black van and drove all the way to Arthur's house. They got out the van and knocked on the door. Arthur's grieving mum answered and asked, "Can I help yous?" Lee said, "Are you Mrs. Walton, Arthur's mum? I'm Lee Armstrong, and this is Oscar Ward. We're from Armstrong Industries. We just need to ask you some questions." Mrs. Walton asked, "Are yous the police?" Then Lee said, No, special ops." Mrs. Walton lets Lee and Oscar in. They sat down on the sofa in the living room. Lee asks Mrs. Walton questions about Arthur, his history, and any connections with Ewan. So Mrs. Walton said, "When Arthur was a boy in school, he was bullied by those three bastards. Ewan was one of them. Arthur came home in school with his head cut open, black eye. I even got a call into school to take him to hospital because of those scumbags. I could never imagine my son Arthur killing anyone, let alone Ewan." Lee said, "Not a problem. Cheers for your time." So Mrs. Walton led Lee and Oscar out. Oscar asked, "What are you going to do?" And Lee answered, "We're going to wait till what the results are." At night, a man looked about 18 to 20 walks out of nightclub with a woman who looks the same age. Then an angry man who looks a couple of years older walked up to them and said, "Oi mate, what the fuck do you think you're doing with my girl? Let's go, Kirsty." So Kirsty said, "No, I told you, Liam, it's over, now fuck off. Sean's mine now." Sean said, "Aye, you heard her." So Liam said, "You wanna go, huh?" So then three men, looking hard, stood behind Sean, staring at Liam. So Sean said, "Well, go on then, mate." Then Liam walked away, as he's freaked out. Kirsty was impressed, so she walked with Sean down the street in Blythe. There was cars speeding on the road past them, and drunk people shouting and fighting. Meanwhile, Liam walks down the alley, and surrounded by Sean's mates. Liam said, "Oh, could you arseholes fuck off?" One of the gang said, "What did you say to us?" Liam said, "You're arseholes, I don't have time for yous, just do one." So one of the gang said, "Let's get him." So they walked towards Liam. They kicked him in the stomach and on the back, and punching him in the face, one of the gang grabbed a glass bottle and smashed it into Liam's face. PC Gary Tucker saw what happened and shouted, "Oi! Calling for backup at the alley. 3 male attacking someone," as he was pressing the radio. So the gang ran off, and there was police chasing after them. Gary looked at Liam's bleeding face and pressed the radio again and said, "Get me an ambulance. This man's very badly cut, and he's been beaten up." In Sean's house, Sean and Kirsty were snogging on the sofa in the living room. After they stopped, Sean went into his bedroom and Kirsty needed the toilet, so she goes to the bathroom. So Sean took his t-shirt off and playfully said, "Hurry up, my hard-on is waiting for you." Kirsty shouted, "I'm almost finished." Suddenly, the stone demon appeared in Sean's room, so Sean looked. The demon grabbed Sean's face, and there was a smoke in his eyes. Kirsty flushed the toilet. She opened the bathroom door and got out. As soon as she walked inside Sean's room, she sees black dust inside Sean's eye sockets instead of eyeballs. Then she screamed. Meanwhile, in Armstrong Industries building, in the lab, Norval has finally got the results about the dust. So Lee, Callie, Oscar and Nadia came in. Norval confirmed it was Ewan's eyeballs. According to results, Ewan was killed by a stone demon-possessed human. The race that you sell your soul, which led to being possessed and hunting down enemies by night. One each night. Demon by night. Lee was suspecting that it could be Arthur who was possessed. So then Nadia gets a phone call. After when she hanged up, she said, "It's PC Gary Tucker. Apparently someone called Sean Perkinson had suffered the same death as Ewan." Lee said, "Shit, can you give us his address?" Later, Lee and his team got into the black van and drove off from the base. Nadia said, the girl called Kirsty Swanson, who saw Sean's body when she was having one night stand with, apparently her ex-boyfriend, Liam Baines, was badly beaten up. He's been bottled. Oscar said, "Jesus, Ewan used to be friends with Sean. They fell out." The black van pulled over at the car park. Lee and his gang got out the van and they burst into Sean's house. There was a couple of policemen standing outside. Kirsty was sitting on the sofa crying her eyes out. Callie and Nadia sat next to her to comfort her, while Lee, Oscar and Norval looked at Sean's corpse with dusty eye socket. Norval said, "Same cause of death, same demon." Lee said, "How many lads has been bullied Arthur?" Then Oscar said, "Well, according to Ewan, it was him, Sean and Andrew." "Oh shit, tomorrow Andrew could be next." Lee said, "We'll find Andrew before the next night comes." After Kirsty's mum picked her up, Lee and his team went back into the black van and drove around Blythe at night. Next day, Andrew walked out of the corner shop carrying cans of Strongbow ciders. Then Lee walked up to him and said, "Are you Andrew Doddsman?" Andrew said, I am. Who's asking?" "Make it quick, as my mate has died and that traitor has died as well. Not that I care about that traitor." Lee said, "I know. It's hard to explain, but you need to come with me, because there is someone after you." Andrew said, "What you gan on about?" Lee said, "Your old mates, Sean Perkinson and Ewan Benton." Andrew said, "Whoa, hold on, mate. Sean may be my mate, but Ewan can fuck off." Lee said, "Sean was killed last night, and Ewan the night before. You could be next. Tonight." "I'm trying to," Andrew said. "You saying you want to fight?" Nadia showed up and said, "We're trying to save you from the demon that appeared at night. He's after you. You'll die unless you let us protect you." Later, Lee and his team took Andrew to the base, and Oscar said, "What's happening?" Lee replied, "I need the field cell. When it's night time, we need to protect Andrew. I'll try and contain the stone demon in the field cell. Hopefully he'll set Arthur free." So Andrew asked what's going on. Lee said, "Arthur Walton, the boy you bullied, he's been possessed by stone demon, and he killed 2 of your mates from school. As a revenge, we're going to put a stop to that, right? You need to trust us." After a while, Andrew asked Oscar how did he get the job in Armstrong Industries. So Oscar said, "Last year, my girlfriend was killed by a gobchew. Those savage beasts, they look like red bloody goblin. I thought it was Lee, because he happened to be in the same place. I almost killed him, but then I learned who killed her, and that Lee was there to stop those creatures. It was too late. Lee forgives me for accusing him and attempted to kill him, and he gave me a job here." So Andrew said, Must be shite for you. It was night time. Lee said. Right, God, Andrew, I'll get the field cell ready. The lights were blinking, and the stone demon appeared. So Lee quickly threw the small silver device at the stone demon, and the beam of light shines upwards from the device and imprisoned stone demon. Andrew said, so that's who's been killing Ewan and Sean, trying to kill me next. Lee said, Aye. Am I speaking to stone demon or Arthur Walton? But you shouldn't possess an 18-year-old lad here. It ain't right. The stone demon said, I was disowned from my world, and I sensed that boy wanted the same. Revenge. Lee said, I understand that, but revenge isn't going to make things better. Possessing a human being isn't going to make things better. Just let the lad go. So Stone Demon refused, and Lee said, Andrew Walton, if you can hear us, fight it. Get yourself out. You're not a murderer. I know you didn't want to murder anyone. Go on, fight it. So the Stone Demon shouted, No! You will stop! Lee turns the field cell off, while Stone Demon is falling, and Arthur stepped out. So then Lee turns the field back on. There was just grey smoke inside a field. So Lee said, Sorry, that thing will taste of its own medicine. After a while, the smoke became a falling grey dust. So Lee turned the field off and confirms that he's dead. Andrew said, Arthur, I'm sorry, I was in the wrong to bully you. I was used by Sean. I couldn't turn my back on him. I was too scared. So Arthur said, I understand, I was scared too, but thanks for the apology. So Lee said, we all make mistakes. People with worst past creates best futures. Later on, Lee dropped Arthur at home. He's reunited with his mum. She was so thrilled to see him again. As soon as Lee is back inside the black van, Callie said, Sorry I never asked, Lee. Have you got a family? Lee replied, I know I may be a captain of the team, but I do have a family. I got a son and a daughter. They live with their mam. Another home I live in. So Callie asked, what's the other home? Lee said, the base, obviously. Oscar said, of course it would be. The black van drives on in Blythe.